You know, there are Japanese hotel chains that you walk into and go, oh God, not again. And then there are Japanese hotel chains that you walk into and go, yes, this. And now I'm going to tell you which one is which.
Wow.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about the coronavirus and how it's affected life in Japan, given that I know many of you are actually planning to come to Japan this year and are feeling a little bit anxious and a little bit worried given the many apocalyptic headlines we're seeing about the disease. I'll also be talking about what we've got lined up over the next few weeks and sharing with you the heartwarming and powerful moment that we gave Pete his beloved Certified Japanophile certificate. It was a wonderful moment and a long time coming. But before that, let's talk hotels. So I am somebody who is probably a little bit of an expert on Japanese hotels by virtue of the fact that I spend so much time travelling around and sleeping and eating and filming inside them. I mean, for Journey Across Japan alone, I think we stayed in about 45 hotels. So I thought I'd share with you my top 5 Japanese hotel chains to go for. So the next time you're booking a trip to Japan, hopefully it'll make the choices a little bit easier. And the first one is the one I was in this morning and the one that's probably my favourite chain. And that is Hotel My Stays. The reason it's my favourite is it just has the best balance of room size to cost. I mean, the hotel room I was in this morning cost 7,000 yen, about $70, and it was pretty damn big for what it was. The only downside is they aren't particularly frequent when compared to the other hotel chains on this list, but I do go out my way to stay in them. If you do come to Japan and choose Hotel My Stays, there's a good chance I'll be in the room next door. But if you'd rather have Pete Donaldson in the room next door, then go for Dormy Inn, my runner-up choice. They're pretty good as well in terms of room size to cost, but the reason Pete Donaldson praises them so much is because they come with a public bath, like a little onsen. If you can't get out to a Japanese inn, then they're another great option for experiencing a Japanese public bathhouse, and it's a little bit more expensive generally, I find, than Hotel My Stays because of the bath, though I did see one in Akihabara for 8,000 yen or $80, which is pretty good value for money. And of course, if you do stay in one, there's a good chance you'll run into Pete, maybe in the corridor or in the public bath, which would be certainly an interesting experience. Going slightly upmarket is the Mitsui Garden Hotel chain. They win the award for probably having my favourite rooms, just by virtue of the fact they do have a desk with a footstool, and footstools make everything better, particularly if you're editing for 6 hours straight. So if I'm in Tokyo doing some work in a hotel room, then that is the one I often go for, the Mitsui Garden Hotel. It's a good place to lock yourself away and get down to some serious work. But if you want to go the other way completely, to the kind of cheapest option, Upper Hotels, APA Hotels, that's the one to go for. They are the most prominent chain across Japan. Every city tends to have at least 5 or 6 APA hotels. The reason they are so cheap is just by virtue of the fact they have phenomenally tiny rooms, so they packed so many into each hotel. When we did Journey Across Japan, we used Upper Hotels more than any other chain because there was quite a few of us in the production team. Obviously not a cheap thing to put so many people in a hotel, so Upper Hotels kind of cut the cost of making Journey Across Japan a fair bit. But I do have trouble sleeping in Upper Hotels sometimes because the rooms are typically like 9 meters squared, which is like the size of a fucking shoe. The walls are so fucking thin you can hear people in the next room over, and also the pillows. For some reason the pillows are like paper thin, and I have to fold it like 3 or 4 times to be able to use it like a real pillow. And that is the hotel chain that I referenced at the start of this video, where you do just walk in the room and go, oh fuck, why have I done this to myself? But the one I choose the least, and the one that is the last on my hit list of 5 hotel chains, is one that I'd completely forgotten about until I walked past it this morning and got the terrifying sight of 2 robotic staff staring back at me through the door. And it is the Henna Hotel chain, aka the Robot Hotel. Since I made my video on the Robot Dinosaur Hotel back in 2017, the chain has just exploded. They're everywhere now, and they're quite cheap. You can get one for about 6,000 yen per night in the middle of Tokyo. That being said, they did have a lot of problems with the robot staff, and they actually fired half the robot staff in 2019 quite publicly, just because they weren't working. They weren't doing the job they're supposed to. And each room comes with a robotic talking egg concierge, and it turns out snoring triggers the voice recognition. It starts talking, so people are getting woken up in the middle of the night just by snoring and triggering the robot talking egg. But the good news is I do think they threw all the eggs out the window, and they've just stuck with the robot staff that's stand and man the front desks now. Still, I've got a friend coming in April, and I suspect I will book a Henna hotel just for one night, to impress him. It's a good place for impressing friends, children. It is a little bit quirky, and there's nothing else quite like it when it comes to a Japanese hotel chain. But those are my top 5, and hopefully it will make the painful decision of choosing a hotel just that little bit easier the next time you're coming to Japan. Still, the hotels are probably the last thing on your mind at the moment, given the coronavirus. So let's talk about the effect it's had on Japan, and also if you should cancel your trip or if you should reconsider your trip. So I've got a lot of friends visiting me in April this year. I don't know why. I get like one friend visit me every year, but for some reason 5 friends are visiting me this year, and they're all doing it in the same month. It's going to be a nightmare, but they've been asking me what I think about it, and I've been telling them all the same thing. There's a compelling argument for booking a trip to Japan now more than ever. I'll get on to why that is in a minute, but first the bad stuff. Yes, there's over 500 cases of coronavirus in Japan, but over 400 of them are on that boat, the boat trip from hell, the Diamond Princess, which has been evacuated in the last few days. The worst effect it's had so far has actually been on the economy. The tourism economy in Japan has taken a massive hit, given 30% of Japan's overseas tourists come from China, and China has banned group trips leaving the country. And it was really noticeable in Hokkaido in the Sapporo Snow Festival the other week, where last year they had 2.7 million attendees, this year just 2 million, which is a pretty big drop. Even Kyoto, which is typically overrun with tourists throughout the year, has had such a big drop that they've started a campaign based around the city being empty, showing these really famous landmarks like the Arashiyama bamboo forest that are just completely empty for the first time in about 10 years. Some people are panicking and doing stupid things, like there was a guy in Fukuoka who witnessed somebody coughing without a mask and hit the emergency stop button on a train, which ruined a lot of people's day. But the main things I've been seeing are pretty positive. People are using more hand sanitizers, people are wearing more masks, and people are washing their hands more. And as a result, there's been a 60% drop in the number of cases for influenza this year. Last year there were 129,000 cases, this year just 44,000, as a result of people being a lot more careful. And though the lack of tourism is causing huge problems economically, in a selfish kind of way, there's no better time to visit Japan, because for the first time in about 10 years you can visit somewhere like the Golden Pavilion in Kyoto and see a 40% drop in the number of people, because it's not just Chinese tourists that aren't coming, it's also all Asian countries. There's been a general drop in tourism. Even domestically, Japanese people are travelling less. So hotels are cheaper, flights are cheaper, and Japan in general is just less crowded. I was in Tokyo this morning. Even Tokyo Station, which is usually a fucking nightmare to walk through, was noticeably more quiet and more easy to navigate without getting trampled to death by a sea of people. And in all likelihood, when the disease drops off next year or later this year, there will be a huge rebound in the number of tourists, and again in 2021 there'll be a huge resurgence. So I realise that things could get worse, the coronavirus could get out of control, and I would encourage you, if you are coming, to stay up to date on the news and keep watching and things. But typically, as you leave the winter season, fewer people get colds, fewer people get influenza. There's a good chance it'll be the same for coronavirus as well. But I will put a link to all the articles I've referenced in the Patreon post if you want to do your own research and look up on it. And certainly if things do get worse and people get more worried, then I might consider making a video. But I have no plans on doing that for now. We did do a podcast, Pete and I, last week on the coronavirus. If you want to hear more, we did a 30 or 40 minute episode dedicated to it, so do check that out. And before we do get on to Pete receiving his certified Japanophile certificate, what have we got coming up over the next few weeks? Well, tomorrow we do have a video with Ryota and I drinking some sake, the rarest sake in all of Japan. Then in the middle of next week we've got the Sapporo Snow Festival video. That'll be on a broad perspective, and it was a lot of fun to edit that given the number of awesome people who came along for the journey. I'm also currently working on another kind of commentary style video similar to the recent Teach English one, where I'm just going to sit here and basically talk about the 6 things in Japan that I'm still not used to after 7.5, almost 8 years now, because there are quite a lot of things about Japan that still confuses me, and I find a little bit weird, so I'm going to talk about that. But above all, I just want to keep up that kind of weekly momentum we've had going at the moment. We've had a video out every week for I think the whole of February, so I want to keep that up going into March as well. And as well as that, we've also got the website being released in about 2 or 3 days. Thank you so much to you guys for your input on the website. We've made a lot of changes to it. That's why it's taken another few weeks. We want to make it as perfect as we can before we release it. Next week we will have the video that you chose about finding personal motivation, finding your own long-term motivation as chosen by you. And I did notice that a lot of you chose the hilarious third option, as I expected. I think more people chose the third option than the first one, so that was interesting. But for now, guys, that is all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, enjoy the soccer video, and enjoy, most importantly of all, Pete receiving his certified Japanophile certificate. I've got a gift for you, Pete.
What?
It's been a long time coming. A long time coming
my God,
indeed.
it's laminated.
Congratulations.
So we've got the koi. Are they koi?
It is a koi carp, which
It says
a fish.
It's the Abroad in Japan Patreon. Don't get a cut of that. Hereby certifies that Pete Donaldson has been formally evaluated for surviving multiple Halloween in Shibuya, contributing modern techniques to language study, and being an unofficial spokesman for Coolish, and is hereby bestowed the globally recognised credential Japanophile the Original. Well, I didn't pass my exam to get on the JET programme, so this much more expensive certificate will just have to do. And they've made your logo look very like a watermark, or like one of those little kind of Chinese block things. Well, it's emotional, it's real. I can't believe it's really arrived, and I'm sure I look forward to showing this at security at Haneda Airport.
Wow.